Esther 5:1 through 6:14. Esther speaks to the king. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner courtyard of the king's palace, facing the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the hall, facing the doorway. When the king saw Queen Esther standing in the courtyard, he was pleased. He held out to her the gold scepter that was in his hand. So Esther went forward and touched the end of it. The king asked, What is it, Queen Esther? What do you want to ask me? I will give you as much as half of my kingdom. Esther answered, My king, if it pleases you, come today with Haman to a banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, Bring Haman quickly, so we may do what Esther asks. So the king and Haman went to the banquet Esther had prepared for them. As they were drinking wine, the king said to Esther, Now, what are you asking for? I will give it to you. What is it that you want? I will give you as much as half of my kingdom. Esther answered, This is what I want and what I ask for. My king, if you are pleased with me and if it pleases you, give me what I ask for and do what I want. Come with Haman tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for you. Then I will answer your questions about what I want. Haman's plan against Mordecai. Haman left the king's palace that day happy and content. But when he saw Mordecai at the king's gate and saw that Mordecai did not stand up for tremble with fear before him, Haman became very angry with Mordecai. But he controlled his anger and went home. Then Haman called together his friends and his wife Zeresh. He told them how wealthy he was and how many sons he had. He also told them that all the ways the king had honored him and how the king had placed him higher than his important men and his royal officers. He also said, I'm the only person Queen Esther invited to come with the king to the banquet she gave. And tomorrow also the queen has asked me to be her guest with the king. But all this does not really make me happy when I see that Jew Mordecai is sitting at the king's gate. Then Hannah's wife, Zeresh, and all his friends said, Have a 75-foot platform built, and in the morning ask the king to have Mordecai hanged on it. Then go to the banquet with the king and be happy. Haman liked this suggestion, so he ordered the platform to be built. Mordecai is honored. The same night the king could not sleep, so he gave an order for the daily court records to be brought in and read to him. It was found recorded that Mordecai had warned the king about Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway and who had planned to kill the king. The king asked, What honor and reward have been given to Mordecai for this? The king's personal servant answered, Nothing has been done for Mordecai. The king said, Who is in the courtyard? Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace. He had come to ask the king about hanging Mordecai on the platform that he had prepared. The king's personal servant said, Haman is standing in the courtyard. The king said, Bring him in. So Haman came in, and the king asked him, What should be done for a man whom the king wants very much to honor? And Haman thought to himself, Whom would the king want to honor more than me? So he answered the king, This is what you could do for the man you want very much to honor. Have the servant bring a royal robe that the king himself has worn, and also bring a horse with a royal crown on its head, a horse that the king himself has ridden, Let the robe and the horse be given to one of the king's most important men. Let the servant put the robe on the man the king wants to honor, and let them lead him on the horse through the city streets. As they are leading him, let them announce, "This is what is done for the man whom the king wants to honor." The king commanded Haman, "Go quickly, take the robe and the horse, just as you have said, and do all this for Mordecai, the Jew who sits at the king's gate. Do not leave out anything you have suggested." So Haman took the robe and the horse, and he put the robe on Mordecai. Then he led him on horseback through the city streets, announcing before Mordecai, "This is what is done for the man whom the king wants to honor." Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman hurried home with his head covered because he was embarrassed and ashamed. He told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had happened to him. Haman's wife and the man who gave him advice said, "You are starting to lose power to Mordecai. Since he is a Jew, you cannot win against him. You will surely be ruined." While they were still talking, the king's eunuch came to Haman's house and made him hurry to the banquet Esther had prepared. Oh, I wanted to keep going. Okay. That's the lesson for today. Life lesson. Esther 5:1 through 6:14. Situation. We must realize that the battle of self-control is fought primarily within our own minds. It is a battle with our passions, thoughts, and desires. In those areas where we have failed to curb our appetite and emotions, we seem to have invisible antennae sensitively attuned to the corresponding temptations. The proverbial chip on his shoulder describes the person whose antenna is constantly searching for the minor incident that he can magnify into an occasion for losing his temper. The person who habitually yields to some bodily appetite or lust is constantly alert for opportunities to indulge that carnal desire. We must learn to say no to those passions when they first enter our minds. Above all, we must pray for the inner strength of will necessary to curb our passions and desires. It is God who works in us to will and to act. Our own particular areas of vulnerability must be made the subject of earnest, preaching prayer for God's grace to work in our wills. At the same time, we must realize that the will is strengthened by obedience. The more we say no to sinful desires, the more we will be able to say no. But to experience this, we must persevere through many failures. A large part of learning self-control is to breaking bad habits and replacing them with good ones. As we grow in the grace of self-control, we will experience the liberation of those who, under the guidance and grace of the Holy Spirit, are freed from the shackles of self-indulgence and are brought into the freedom of true spiritual disciples. From the Practice of Godliness by Jerry Bridges. Application. Are you disciplined even under difficult circumstances? Say no to the temptation to indulge every appetite. Substitute an old habit with a new one. Praise. Don't complain. Support. Don't argue. Encourage. Don't brag. Self-control. That is the biggest challenge in our lives. Self-control on eating habits, negative thinking habits. It's all sin. It all falls under the sin of nature, of human nature, that everyone does. But I think our goal in life is to work on being better. Work on being a better you, a better me, a person that God wants us to be, that God would love for us to be. I believe that God understands that we're only capable of doing so much. But I know that with His love and His grace, He can help us be better to ourselves, so we can continue to live in this life in the best way possible, like in the least amount. I mean, I know that when you believe in God, all problems don't go away. But when you have that hope or that encouragement of God being there for you, knowing that He's there to protect you like a parent, you know they're going to come through. You know that they're going to, at the end of the day, they're going to hold you. If you're sad, they're going to hold you, and they're going to cuddle you, and they're going to kiss you and tell you that everything's okay. It's nice to have that. And there are so many people out there that don't believe. We haven't experienced that connection with God, that this book comes to life in a, oh my gosh, in a magical way. It's incredible when you open your heart and you seek to Him and you ask Him for things. These hurricanes, all these key, like tragic things are happening all at the same time. There's hurricanes here, there's tsunamis, there's bombs, there's everybody everywhere. It's getting crazier and crazier here in this life. And the pastor was talking about how this is all written, this is all in the Bible. This is what the Bible tells us is going to happen. And we're getting closer and closer to the day that God will come back and say, hey guys, come on family, it's time to go home. And I want to pray for all these hurricanes all these places that have been affected by the hurricane. St. John's, a good friend of mine that lived there, she lived there for a while, and I went to go visit her. It was such a beautiful, beautiful island, and it's now completely destroyed. People are losing their homes. Homes just fell off the roof. They saw floods coming up. I mean, it's been a total mess. And of course, it all started with Texas. Hurricane Irma came through here in Florida, but thank God we were okay. I just pray for this next little hurricane that's coming up, Maria. She's coming up Puerto Rico, right in the center of Puerto Rico, and we're hoping that it'll veer. So my dad is over there in Puerto Rico, so they're a little nervous what's going to happen, but they're more prepared. They're going to be prepared. They haven't had electricity or water for the past couple weeks, so I can't even imagine that. We didn't lose power at all while Irma came through here. So I pray for all those families that have been affected or that will be affected. And I hope you guys can pray as well for those just in need, ones that are falling back and feeling that need more encouragement. So I just pray for all of those that God can just put a feeling in their hearts, open their hearts, help them to open up and allow them to depend on God. Start that communication. So thank you guys for watching another video, leaving a comment and any suggestions that you might have. Let me know if you want to hear anything else, any other book that pops in your mind. Someone suggested to do a video with just sounds. I have thought about just kind of separating and having sounds on one video and then just leaving the whispering or the reading for another video, so that way you start the video off with the reading of the Bible. So let me know what you want to hear, and again, we will see you next time. Bye bye.